Hi, everybody. This is Gabrielle Carteris, president of SAG-AFTRA.
And I am David White, National Executive Director of SAG-AFTRA.
We want to welcome you to the SAG-AFTRA podcast. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the NextGen Performers Committee, otherwise known as NGP. And they are made up of young adult SAG-AFTRA members, and they're there really to help our young adult professional community connect, learn, and get involved.
So important to the future of SAG-AFTRA and to our present. And joining us in the studio today are Aubrey Mozino and Ben Whitehair.
Yes.
Together, you all are the co-chairs of NGP here in Los Angeles, and you're also professional actors. Aubrey and Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Excited to be here.
You guys, first of all, I would love you to talk a little bit about what NGP is exactly.
Yeah, so NextGen Performers started a number of years ago when members, not us, looked around and said, let's have something at SAG-AFTRA that plays directly to the younger generation of performers. They said, you know what, we need something for the 18 to plays 35 demographic. And they brought in Aubrey and myself shortly after they got all of the official committee structures in place, and we've been rocking it out for the last number of years.
That demographic is one of the largest, if not the largest within the union, but they are typically the least educated or involved members of SAG-AFTRA. And so obviously we wanted to change that because, eventually we're going to have to step up and be leaders of this union if we want it to continue. So it was really important to find ways to engage that demographic more.
Let's say you're new to the union, you just took your career to an exciting new level, and it's time to network the heck out of it.
Well, good news, because NextGen Performers Committee has social networking events and meetings year-round to help members connect with others in the same boat.
Or life raft, depending on how your last audition went.
I think what's so important is truly one of the things about engaging that demographic, as you say, it is the total future of this union. I remember when I first came into service, people saying, there's a lot of people who've been here for a long time, but where's the voice for young people? And this committee has been really essential, I think, to the growth and to the foundation of SAG-AFTRA.
It's a real challenge because you're talking about people who are in the middle of building your career, and that is ordinarily not the time that people are focused on volunteering and spending a great deal of time helping others to build their career. But somehow you've managed to do this successfully, and there's now been an expansion of the committees around the country. Why do you think right now is a time where the NGP concept and the work that you're doing is gaining traction?
What we found is that our peers want to be involved. They really do care. They want to make sure that they have a future, that the industry has a future. And I think our job, both as a union and as member leaders, is to make it as easy as possible to do that.
A lot of our peers are concerned about, the emerging technologies and what that means in terms of employment and jobs. And I think they were really excited to see fellow like-minded people who had the same questions. And, it was a great sort of pathway to learning more about the wonderful things the union does to protect.
I think the committees actually help to identify and maybe bring to the foreground technologies that are coming up that everybody's aware of, but maybe not necessarily focused on the same way as young people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been fortunate enough to be in the LA local and national boardrooms and to see those conversations and be able to help shape that, whether it's in the boardroom, at convention, or just on a weekly basis as part of the union, to see what all of my peers are doing around social media and generating our own content and being creators, and this tremendous access that we have to really taking our career into our own hands, which certainly provides its own challenges, but ultimately is really exciting. And so finding ways to make sure that that's integrated into the web of what we're doing as a union.
I want to dig into that a little bit. When I first started at then Screen Actors Guild, I came in 2002. And at the time, that was still a moment where if you were going to be a performer, you saw yourself as an actor. And one of the first things that you wanted to do was to get your SAG card. That was a really important thing. In presentations to the board and to the convention, I frequently talk about the shifting mindset of the generation of artists who come in and who see themselves as wanting to build a career in front of a camera or behind a microphone. And we frame that as the entrepreneurial mindset, but it seems different than seeing oneself as an actor who needs a SAG card. Now the SAG-AFTRA card may be as valuable, but it's valued as a different type of currency. I wonder if you could explain just the mindset of someone who gets off the bus, lands in Los Angeles, wants to be a star or be successful or have a career. What does that look like now? Is it different than what it looked like in the 1980s, 1990s?
They weren't born yet. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, when I was 5.
What you've read about?
No, I absolutely think it has shifted a great deal. I think that most representatives are looking for performers who can sort of do it all. It used to just be, actor, writer, or actor, director, and now they really want you to be a performer, a director, a writer, a producer. They want you to create your own sort of brand and content. And I think if you just are sort of focusing only on your performance and your craft, you're going to be really left behind, because a lot of the way that the industry has shifted is that they're looking for someone who can come in and pitch a show top to bottom and create something. What NGP really does help with is creating a community where, a lot of these projects, you can't do them alone. Film is by nature a collaborative medium, and so you need other people. You need someone to run the camera for you. You need someone to help you, set up the lights. And so through NGP, we've had a lot of people who have met fellow like-minded people who are passionate about the same types of projects and want to create stuff together. And we've also given them the tools through educational workshops, teaching them how to do it with, mobile filmmaking workshops and Call to Create workshops as well. So we just actually had an event based around the interactive contract. And so a lot of people who, have done motion capture or some kind of stunt work or VO work were really excited, because we did this panel where we had professionals talk about getting into the interactive space and working in it. But also then we, of course, it's NGP, we have to do something fun as well. We had a video game truck outside where people could actually play the video games that are under SAG-AFTRA contracts and really learn about what it is to do motion capture, how to make sure your voice isn't strained when you're working on some of these video games for long hours.
When you meet a young person coming out off the bus, like you're saying, what do you say to them about why it's important, since they are doing all this self-creation from top to bottom, bottom to top? Why would it be important for them to be a part of a union versus just doing it?
To me, the distinction is really around doing it as a hobby versus doing it as a profession. And most people who come to any of the major markets or places where our union is at all go, I want to do this as a profession. I don't just want to dabble in it or play around. I want to get paid for it. I want to make a living at it. I want to be able to have other people see my work in a way that is distinct from simply being able to create art. And so a lot of what we're talking about in our communities is saying this is a business if I want to make money at it. And so being part of a union, certainly in my own personal experience, was one of the number one pieces of being a professional, so that I know when I show up to set, I'm going to be fed, I'm going to get paid, I'm safe. And that was actually why I joined SAG-AFTRA. I remember I showed up to a non-union set. I'd been cast in this film, and I was so excited. I was the lead. The script was amazing. And then the night before, the director called me and said, "Hey, by the way, we lost our DP. I'm just going to do it myself. Don't worry about it." I was like, no, I can find someone. I have friends. We can do this. And I showed up to set, which happened to be 2 hours outside of the city, which I found out like at midnight. And when I showed up, there was no one on set. There wasn't food. She was taping a microphone to like a broomstick. I was like, this is not where I am in my career. This is not what I'm committed to. And I said, you know what? Now's the time to really take my career to that next level, so that even if we are bootstrapping creation, which is totally possible, and to do it on a budget, but to say, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I'm part of productions that are professional.
When I hear that, what I'm thinking is a sense of dignity, right? Because it's hard to go onto a set and think, oh my God, this is schlocky, and I'm not schlocky. My work has meaning. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I think one of the worst things you can do when you're producing content is waste people's time, because most of the time you're have a very tight budget, and so you're calling in favors. People are either getting paid not their typical day rates, or payments even deferred. And so the least you can do is give them a very professional set. That's one of the really important things when you're creating content. The union has these wonderful low-budget contracts, the low-budget new media contract and the short project agreement, that really make it easy for people to produce under a union contract. And it's much easier than people think. My film community has helped dozens, if not hundreds at this point, people really go the union route when they're producing content, because at first there's a little bit of a trepidation about, the paperwork involved or the time involved. And then once you sort of show them how simple it is, they get excited because it does lend a lot of authenticity and professionalism to that project. And then they're also able to attract better performers for their project, which is obviously a win-win.
And to your original question, I do still think there's a significant amount of pride in getting your SAG-AFTRA card, and it is still seen as, that is the next step of, I'm really taking this seriously, I'm professional, and I'm seen as a professional.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We were at a party of social media stars, and they were saying exactly the same thing. And they really felt like it legitimized their career. It was taking them to the next level, and it gave them a sense of authenticity. I am curious, though, when talking with folks who, just by virtue of the fact that they have been raised in an environment where unions haven't had a big presence and where there hasn't been a lot of positive conversation about unions, how do you talk about unions? How do you help people understand the significance of not simply producing under a union contract, but becoming a member of a union? Do you ever have the direct discussion with them?
Oh, all the time, actually. It's interesting because I am a producer, but I'm also a very proud SAG-AFTRA member. And I sort of start that conversation by saying that when you're producing a project, you want to make sure that not only are you taking care of the craft, the story, but, as a performer in that, there is a lot that you need to do to take care of that person who is dedicating their craft. And often I know that there's like a breakdown of, I only have $2,000 to make this project and I got to squeeze out every last penny, and, I'm not going to pay my performers, or I'm not going to go out of my way to pay in pension and health and all of those things. But when I talk to them about the importance of how, for me, this is my career, just like you are taking the same passion and putting it into your project as a producer, I need to take the same levels of protection and put it into my career by being a union member, and make sure that these projects are done in a way that is not only a fair pay, but safe, for these low budget productions that people throw things together, and all of a sudden you're being asked to dive into a pool and you don't know how deep it is, and time's running out and everything's pressured, and you have to make sure to take those moments. And I've had to do it on some low budget productions where I've had to put my actor hat on and say, hey, wait, can we just pause here and make sure that everything's, lined up before we just rush into something and someone gets hurt. There's that first initial blockade, I think, of like the fear of this impending building on Wilshire that's very scary and corporate looking. But once you just, put a face to what the union represents, I think a lot of producers are more understanding.
Is it a misconception, like, the first thing you're talking about is a contract, that it's not so complicated? Mm-hmm. So clearly there's a misconception that our contracts can be complicated when it comes to those, digital or low budget. Yes. What are some other misconceptions that are out there?
Gosh, the union doesn't really offer much. I pay these dues every month. What do I get out of it? And, there's so many class-free workshops and screenings and all these amazing networking events that are provided daily to take advantage of. Also, there's a lot of misconceptions about the union's not going to get me work. And no, the union's not going to find a job for you to be hired on, but the union helps you get work by training you to be a better performer, by educating you to know how to act on set better, and by connecting you to amazing industry professionals through these workshops.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that this idea that the union is separate from me and my career. And we say, well, the union, as if it's this other entity that like walks around and does things. But the union is just members, and predominantly it's volunteers. All of the hours that we spend, it's volunteering. I'm not getting paid, and
You're not?
Our board members. Wait, what? No. I have gotten a free lunch here or there. But a lot of what we're doing with NextGen is saying, this is us, the union, SAG-AFTRA. All it is really at its core is a community of people coming together, which is often why we became artists in the first place. I know for me, the reason I became an actor is because the first time in high school when I was part of a play, I went, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing, inclusive community, and look at what we're able to create when people of so many different talents come together to make something for a bigger vision. And it's like, that is incredible. And to me, that's what the union is. And so clearing up that misconception about, oh, it's this separate thing. It's us. We are the union, and we are the ones who have the power to make changes in our community. And one of the main reasons that I got involved with NextGen Performers was to close that gap between the knowledge of what is going on already and all the things that SAG-AFTRA, our staff, our members are doing, and connecting that so members are aware of it, see it, and can be involved. Because I know the more that I've gotten involved, I go, oh my gosh, there is so much happening that often we don't know, or we don't know until we need it. A producer tried to take advantage of them, or their residuals don't get paid, or a paycheck doesn't come through on time, or something dangerous happens on set, and then all of a sudden, that's when people become aware of the union and go, oh my God, someone
right.
showed up to my set.
As a performer, right, it's isolating. Even though it's, like you say, you do a show, that's your community, but then you leave that show and you go to something else. It's hard to be able to take care of yourself sometimes because it's one lone voice amongst major corporations maybe, or even it's a bigger group, so that the union in a way is the community, I think, that you can go to even when you're going from job to job. I think that's an important statement.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that our generation has realized is that all boats rise with the tide, and overwhelmingly I find that as a community, our members want to support each other and want to support the community, and let's make content together. To me, NextGen is just a representation of what's already happening with our community, who's saying, yeah, let's all support each other because it's a long-term career. If you think that you're going to get an agent, book a pilot, and get famous in the first 6 months, that's probably a little bit delusional. And yes, some people win the lottery, but predominantly this is a long-term career, and that's what we're in it for, is to make it and to have that community in between gigs to be able to support each other.
Collective voice.
Absolutely. I remember my wife was a writer, and before she got her first job, going to events and tapping into someone who had some level of success, who acknowledged her and acknowledged her personhood, her professionalism, the possibilities of her future, to say, hang in there. Sure, I'll spend 10 minutes talking with you. And have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? She would then live off of that for the next 3-4 weeks. Like, it would, just kept her going. That's the only thing with these types of careers. People don't understand how difficult it is to sustain the momentum and the belief that there's a place for me here. And that's what community means for our membership as well. It's why it's so critical that they actually do take advantage of all the things that are offered through NGP and all the other ways that the union supports and serves members.
1,000%. I know community was the number one reason why I got involved with NGP from the beginning. And the work part of being a performer, I think, is not when you are on set. That's fun. That's the joy. That's the gift you get finally to go and do the thing you love. The work is in between jobs. Dropping off your headshots. The work is self-submitting for projects. That's the really tough part. And that's the part that I think the union is there for people. It creates a community. People show up to our networking events. And
talk about the networking that you do, some of the different mixers you've done and how that all came to be, because that's not what we really used to do. I mean, we used to have members got together in our membership meetings, right?
Yep.
Yeah. They're very serious networking events. Some of them involve drag queen bingo and bowling. Very serious, incredibly serious. We've hosted a ton of events, like I just mentioned, those two really fun ones. We have basically mixers every several weeks.
Yep. Yeah, and all the NGPs across the country. Continually, that's one of the main things that they focus on. How can we make sure we have a home and a hub for our members to connect with each other? And that's where they're meeting each other and inspired in between and helping each other out in those moments in between set. Whether it's larger parties, bigger mixers with lots of people, or more intimate things, or communities built around, say, hey, we all care about producing our own content and being able to show ourselves, or as this group of members really care about performance capture or voiceover or whatever else that is, having a place for that.
As you talk about NGP and what happened here in LA, it's actually something that's spread across the country. And I would love for you to share some of that so our audience can really hear the kind of work that's going on.
There are over half a dozen NGPs across the country. And in fact, there was just an NGP Northeastern Summit where we had different members from basically NGP New York, New England, Philadelphia, and Washington Mid-Atlantic, who all came together for a summit to come together, connect, share ideas, support each other. And so that's been one of our favorite things, is to see the community spreading nationwide.
Today we're here at the NGP Summit for the Northeast chapters, which I believe are Washington, New York, Boston, and Philadelphia. And what we're doing is we're discussing new ways that these various locals can all contribute to both activism and then raising a new generation of performers.
I really just wanted to be here to network, to get a better idea of what the foundation and the union does, and I've definitely been responding to on both of those fronts. It's really been great, and so far it's just been wonderful. I got to tour the screening room, the foundation facility. I heard some great workshops, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the day.
There's not a lot of people in my age group going to these things, getting the information that they need. And like one of my friends who also just joined, I saw him at one of the events and we were like, we need to tell more people about these things.
So I love the NGV mixers. I've been to them. I think they're awesome. I think the energy is great. You guys create panels. Talk about some of the panels, because those panels actually are liberating ideas, right? That's what they are. And I think you should share them and what they're about.
We did one, I actually presented a workshop on smartphone studio, as I call it, mobile filmmaking, basically the soup to nuts gear and best practices that you need to go out and start shooting immediately a project that is just as professional looking as anything that you would see on the big screen or on television today. And we really went, yeah,
no, it's so amazing.
It's so affordable. The whole rig costs less than $200 if you have a phone. So we went through all of that, and then we even had representatives come down from Apple to show off how to do basic editing on projects and how to not need anyone really to hold your hand in order to get up and running immediately to shoot something. And it's so affordable that instead of plunking down, $5,000 for your first project, you can go out and do it for $200 and then do it again and get better and better and better. There's great tools that are in your pocket, literally.
Yeah, I think one of the misconceptions is that once you're a union member, there aren't places to then kind of practice your craft. And one of the reasons why I joined was I said, oh, you know what? There is so much in digital, new media, all the student films I've done where I really get to practice my craft. And some of my proudest work as a performer has come from these different things that are under a union contract. And so a lot of our goal is to support members in knowing how they can do that themselves, where to find access to that. Coming up here shortly, we're doing a panel with digital influencers and really looking at social media and the way that that is impacting people's careers and how performers can use that to leverage, again, all of their creative talents. We do a lot of what I might consider more traditional panels. We had a casting director panel. We've got agent representative panels coming up, podcast, voiceover, all the different areas that our
demo
members
reels,
can work.
how to create a better, yeah.
We have a musical improv workshop that we do here in LA.
Want to do a little for us right now? No.
Yeah. No. With the musician from Whose Line Is It Anyway that comes in. Every number of things, and it's been cool to see people go, oh my gosh, either I was doing that and I didn't know where else to go, or like I've been hitting a roadblock in my career and
or
I just
didn't know
heard,
it was an opportunity,
or I didn't know I could do that.
Right.
And so it's been really cool. And then people, 6 months later, we'll see them in a mixer and go, oh my gosh, look at what I made, or oh, I met someone at the last event and we went off and we started a practice group for our improv, or whatever that might be.
See, I think it's so exciting because it really is so out of what it used to be 20 or 30 years ago. The idea that you really are actually the creators not only of today, but you are the future creators who will be hiring everybody else. I mean, you're setting a path.
Yeah, and I think that's one of our goals long term with NGP is to say, what does this industry look like in the future? And as we see the distribution of content channels and all the different ways that just the economy shifting, having nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA, I think that's something that members go, well, how come this is happening or this or that? And often it's the economy changing, which we saw in book publishing, we saw it in the music industry. One of the reasons why I'm such a proud member of SAG-AFTRA is I look and go, we're actually doing it differently than those other industries did, and we're actually protecting our members and having these conversations so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I have a family, that I can still do this career that I love so much.
So critical. I mean, it really reshapes and empowers the trajectory of the union and our relationship with the next generation of members and beyond. And as you're talking about it, you're talking about the relationships as members and also relationships as producers and folks who will be employing them, working with, maybe working for them. It speaks to what the future of the industry will in fact look like.
Right. I think one of the things that we're passionate about is having performers take their power back. I think often because it feels like there's this big power differential, or someone else is giving me work, or I'm new and I love this and I'll do it for free. We sometimes give our power away as performers and let ourselves be mistreated or underpaid or disrespected. And one of the things that both SAG-AFTRA does and being part of this community is seeing performers go, no, you know what? I am a professional, and the thousands and thousands of hours and dollars I've put into my career mean something, even if it's just that I'm showing up on a student film set and I'm getting treated differently because that student director who's also learning goes, oh, wow, I've got a SAG-AFTRA member
I have a responsibility.
on set.
Right.
And hey, are you taken care of? And then we go, wow, this is why I'm doing it. And then I can do what I'm best at because I don't have to worry about my contract being screwy or something happening with my payment. I go, I can just show up and I can do my work and focus on being a performer.
It's interesting the way that we talk about how we protect people as a union working with working professionals. I always tap into that when I talk with others about my job and why I enjoy the job so much. It was one of the things I talked to the board about, having an image, largely because of my age, on the big screen, of seeing some moment where an actor embodies just that perfect crystallized essence of a truth that spoke to me. And all that we do is actually intended to provide protected space so that you all, in addition to all this great creative activity that you have, so that you can have the intimacy to bring that to life, and the rest of us live vicariously through that. And it speaks to us and helps us tell our own stories. It gives us a type of language. And so the idea that we are now making sure that the next generation of storytellers, which aren't just doing this on the big screen, it's a new set of media that people are hearing and feeling their stories and receiving their stories, but we continue to protect that space is very exciting. And the way that you all contribute to that is really, really appreciated and exciting.
It's had a great impact on this union.
We just want to say thank you to you guys as leaders of the union, and to the staff and other members who are volunteering their time to support our community and the future of this union, because we really do find a tremendous amount of hope and optimism in the future of our industry because of SAG-AFTRA and the strengths of our members.
1,000%. Yeah, the support for NGP since day one has been amazing, and it's why it's growing as much as it is. And I think we have a lot more to do and accomplish, and we're excited to come back and share some more stuff that's in the pipeline soon.
The membership is lucky to have you be a part of it, and you are SAG-AFTRA. Where can we find more information about NextGen and the work you're doing?
Well, you can go certainly to our social media channels. We're at NextGen Performers on Instagram, as well as our Facebook, and NextGen Performs on Twitter. You can also go to the website, sagaftra.org/NGP, and see information for the NGPs and the different locals and the different things that are happening with NextGen Performers all across the country.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
So, Ben, are you down with NGP?
Oh, you know me. NGP. Yeah.